for the very lady.
But I think the other thing too that I wanted to get into is Kirk Franklin's speech, his acceptance speech, when he gave his awards. I'm gonna play that clip real quickly. So that when I heard this, man, it really is something that needed to be said. It really something that it's something that needed to be said. There's a lot of people out there that are getting really seasoned and old, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
You know, which one it is, seasoned, old, whatever, in the game, and they're not passing the baton like he said. What are your thoughts about what he said?
That was very powerful. And I like that. You know, he's really been having Maverick City with him wherever he goes.
They did a whole album together.
Yeah, they did a whole album, and he's been. I mean, they were on like all these other talk shows and everything, and he's really been bringing them around and really been, you know, giving them exposure to where, you know, they are the next ones up. What he said at the awards with that speech, he made a point. I think he made a really good point. It is really important to, like, people in these positions, people that are like at the top right now, and a lot of the throughout entertainment or wherever, just in general, period. If you are in a position where you have people that's under you, especially a new generation or a new face, you should try to do your best to mentor them, to take them under your wing, and to try to pass the torch to them. Because after you step down, you know, who are you grooming to be able to take that position? Who are you grooming to be able to, like, you know, to take your knowledge that you've learned being in that position and to take it to another level? How are you helping to grow that position and to groom others behind you, especially to leadership that you feel that will be able to help propel it to another situation? A good question is, are a lot of people thinking about that when they get up there and being able to think about the ones coming behind you? So that's really important. I think that was really neat. That did need to be said, and that is important to be able to start doing that, to grooming new future generations behind you.
Right. I mean, I think the one thing he said was, like, it's so many people who are financially
that was a big
deprived.
Mm-hmm.
Because you will not pass the baton.
That's true.
A lot of them is way more talented than you, and if you don't pass the baton, like, how is it that the game is supposed to grow? Like what happens to the young blood that's in there? Now granted there are a lot of artists out there that do pass the time. Like they do try to get on. Like I think Jadakiss does a good job. I think the Locks do a good job at, reaching out, like getting with some of the young people. Who else? I mean, shoot, at this point, J. Cole, he does a good job. I mean, he's really seasoned in the game now. They about to be almost 15 years in soon.
Yeah.
They may be around 12 or 13, something like that now. But yeah, how else does the game increase? Like one part about that speech, he's talking about even the churches. Like when the pastor don't step down, the churches are so ignorant that they won't allow like different perspectives, different pastors to come in and give different perspectives from a young man's point of view versus, a lot of these pastors out here, they stuck in their ways. They don't want to, they don't want to teach, they teaching the same old that they've been preaching for years.
And Jay Sheree, on one of the episodes that we did on the collab, she had made a comment about that, how that a lot of churches don't want to allow the new generations to get into positions to where they can, put their influence on.
I am active in church. I am on a ministry. I was literally at church earlier today on a Saturday, okay, to work on some things for service tomorrow. There is a strong resistance from the older generation to pass the torch on to the younger generation. So if you don't trust us to carry on what's being done in the church, you don't trust us. So what are we here for? That is what a lot of people feel. What am I here for? I can just cultivate and work on my relationship with God, period. So on my own. So it's people, since you don't trust me, that distrust in a relationship is toxic on any level of relationship, no matter what the relationship is.
So you think a lot of that has to do with some people just don't want to give up the power, or just they want to hold on to control?
I don't know if it's more so power than it is just not wanting to move on to something new,
not wanting to change.
Right, like my old pastor, E. Dewey Smith, I remember he was saying how he only had a few more years. He wasn't going to be preaching till he was an old man. He was going to be out at one point. He wasn't going to, and he'll be preaching. He won't be preaching at the church, but I think he'll be preaching at, certain engagements and stuff like that. But he wasn't going to be preaching for the rest of his life. I don't think a lot of pastors. I don't think a lot of people who are in the music industry, who are getting up there, I don't think they have a plan B. A lot of them don't have a plan B. They just want to just be rapping, preaching, whatever you are.
They're thinking about now and not like the future.
Exactly. They just stuck in their ways in a lot of ways too, where they rather preach and teach a certain way, and if it ain't that, it ain't biblically sound, or it ain't, it's not something that his or her congregation, or they don't think that that's supposed to be the right way. Like you got some pastors who are not, like the older pastors, they preach and teach about how being gay is wrong. Then you got some people, young people, who will just won't preach that way at all, and it will invite the gay community into the church to preach to them, right? And some people, they may not like that, so it's just a lot of things that just in general, whether it be the church or whatever, that generally speaking, a lot of things that they were doing back then that are wrong. And the way they were teaching it was wrong. And a lot of the young people now are trying to, teach, and it's still biblically sound, but they present it in a different way. I remember when hip hop, when what you would call Christian hip hop, when that came, stop it, man, please.
When Christian hip hop came,
man, these people, some of these churches wasn't having it. They wasn't having it. I remember this guy, Craig something. He was like this. They called him like a hip hop preacher, but he was preaching against this hip hop in the church, like hip hop, right? He was preaching against hip hop, but he also was preaching against the people who were in Christian hip hop. And I'm sitting there like, yo, come on, and the people that I listen to biblically are on point. Some of them got their own churches. It made me want to go read, but read what's going on in the Bible and kind of correlate with what they was saying.
Yeah. So
one of these days he was preaching the same thing, and they ran up on him. Not in a bad way.
The Christian hip hop. The Christian hip hop artists ran up on him.
Yeah, not in a bad way, but in a good way. Like, yo, like, and they knew more scripture than he did. From what I heard. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got like rappers like the Cross Movement. Them boys, woof, they on it. Them boys is on it. The Cross Movement, man, y'all looked at. First of all, they a dope. They a dope group, but they know the Bible. You know what I'm saying? And you hear them talk. They present it very well, but they wasn't trying to hear that.
Yeah,
they wasn't trying to have these people, these boys coming in with their baggy jeans, coming in there thinking they preachers. They didn't like it. But some of them liked it because it was good for the kids, So, I say all that to say, some people they just don't want to change, man. And it takes people like Kirk Franklin, because remember when Kirk Franklin came in the game, they didn't like him either.
Yeah.
I mean, it was cool when he was doing some of the other joints, but when he came in with that stomp. Come on, dog. It was over. Like, they was like, nah, they ain't, nah. Stop. Do you want a revolution? Whoop, whoop. Like, no. They wasn't trying to hear that. They were not trying to hear that. But Kirk Franklin, that's why it's so important about what Kirk Franklin said is basically, because he understands. He was the person that changed gospel music.
Yeah.
It's him. It ain't when it got. I mean. Now you got your gospel artists that came in the game in the 80s and 90s. They flipped it. My favorite. You got John P. Key.
Yeah.
But Kirk Franklin changed gospel music.
I think Mary. I know Mary probably was most likely was inspired by him and a lot of other artists that came after him.
Mary's years later.
Yeah, true.
But Kirk came in the game and changed it. He brought hip hop
along with it.
He brought, he was flipping. He started flipping old songs from the 70s. As well, and making them gospel songs. And then even lately he's been taking old hip hop songs and converting them into gospel. He is the one that said, you know what? Y'all go ahead and preach from that pulpit. Y'all make that music for the pulpit. But I'm going to make music and meet these kids where they are. And I'm going to bring them in. Y'all keep on doing that, I'm going to do me. I believe there's certain people that that have a mission to do certain things. And what you want to say about Kirk Franklin, you can say whatever you want to say, but he might be this, he might be that behind the scenes. I don't care. I don't know. But I know what Kirk Franklin's music has done for a lot of people. And he's reached and found these young people. And I'm a product of that. Like, you know, like Stomp was that was good for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like but you know, a lot of people, you know, they say that you talk to a lot of people, they'll say, "Oh, nah, I love Kirk Franklin." They did not like Kirk Franklin
because he was changing stuff that people were used to being a certain kind of way.
And guess what? He can't sing.
Well, he's not singing on most of these, is he?
He cannot sing. Is what I'm saying. No, he can't. But what I'm saying is that it was a gospel artist that could not sing.
Yeah.
But he changed the game with his pen. He could write a song, man. My bad. What you were saying?
No, I was just saying that if you feel it in your heart to, you know, to share something, especially like, you know, God's word through a means to where you're trying to help reach more people and bring it in. I mean, continue to follow your heart. I mean, I don't think that people are doing something from the course of their heart, and the results are good, especially bringing people in. I don't see anything too much wrong with that. I do know a lot of people they have a particular way of how things are done, and they don't want to change on a lot of things.
And you're right. Greed is in that, though. I'm going to answer a question about greed. I think greed is a part of that too.
Yeah. So I mean, if it's working and finding people to bring them in closer to have them with their walk with God, I mean, only thing you can do is just pray about it and just, you know, just let Him guide you through His Spirit.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like, I mean, listen, there's a lot of talented people. There's a lot of, you know, power or whatever you want to. There's a lot of that to be thrown around. But understand that when you had your time, you had your time. That is the part that I think that people. That's the part that's what he's talking about. You got to recognize when you had your time. And when it's time to fade into the background, you know, and to help others pick up what where you left off.
Yeah, that's important. I think that's important. You have to do that. That's what helps to move it along.
It's addictive, though.
And that's power and greed, man.
It's addictive, but you know, not just power, but just the fact that the limelight, the love. The love is addictive, because when they don't love you no more, then sometimes you feel like you don't have a purpose. You know, so it could be. It's you've been striving and trying so long to get into that limelight. When it's time for you to fade into the background, you just don't want to do it because people love you.
It's like what you said earlier. A lot of people don't have a plan B. They don't think of that. Once they get there, that's all they think about is getting there. So once they're there, that's it. Like, they ain't planning for nothing else. They don't want to plan for anything else either. So they don't. That's where they plan themselves to be.
Man, shout out to Kirk Franklin though, because Kirk Franklin, man, like I said, even though he cannot sing vocally, he's not. Vocally, he don't have it. He'll tell you vocally he ain't there, but Kirk Franklin is one of my favorite gospel artists, along with William Murphy John P. Key,
Fred Hammond.
Fred Hammond, he in there somewhere. But those people I just mentioned, including Kirk Franklin, I got something from their music that I still carry with me, like still, you know, and it's still like
that's and that's really what's important, man. Like, regardless of how many people feel about whatever, if they got the message, what they were talking about from it, and it drew them closer to the Most High through it, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, man. But shout out to Kirk Franklin for passing the baton to another gospel group that represents, that group represents what all-inclusive Christianity, like Christianity looks like. You know what I mean? Like, you got white, black, like it's a Christian group, what they would call. Once again, they add these names to divide everything up. Yeah. It's still speaking about God, but they call it a Christian group when you start to, you know, when you have certain melodies and stuff like that, you know, and certain way you sing. But this group, I mean, they just did an album. And y'all correct me if I'm wrong. Y'all can go in the comments and tell me, but they just did an album where they recorded in jail. They recorded. They went to the jail and recorded an album. Kirk Franklin was there too. They did a whole album, and you go look up their album where they're in the jail singing with the inmates. Like they out there reaching people, man. No telling what those conversations in those jails look like with these people. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, shout out to them. Shout out to Kirk Franklin for you know, passing the baton, man. Knowing when to fade in the background.
That's dope.